In 2011, the great Rayman Origins came forth to the world, and people loved it. Just 2 years later, Rayman Legends sprouted, and people also loved this one. Now 11 years later, here I am head over heels for this game. But like many in this world, I have some opinions. So I'll be going through my relationship with this game while turning myself into a Rayman Legends princess. It started when I was a little girl in Ireland. Me and my older sibs, short for siblings, would often visit the children of my mother's friend. We were so close that we thought they were our cousins. One of the things we would do together is play video games on their Xbox. And one of the games they had was Rayman Legends, and we loved it. We nagged our mom to get this game for ourselves, and eventually she did. But she didn't get Rayman Legends. It was the Origins. We quickly fell in love with that one as well, and later on also got the Legends. Unfortunately, they flew to the bin, never to return because we were too addicted. It might have actually been because of moving, but it was still heartbreaking. Now let's talk about a few things I love about these games. I first obviously need to point out the illustrations. The settings look amazing. You could just never get bored of these worlds. And it's from 2013. Just look at this, and this. And I'm in love with the character designs. They're just so creative and beautiful. But the best characters are the baby kings in the Origins. They are just so adorable, I want to squeeze them. The Lums are also very sweet. Too bad the King Lum isn't there in the Legends. That's why people need to stick with 2D art. You can never get bored of it, and it looks amazing forever. And with 3D it looks good at the start, but as the years go by it looks like garbage. What I also love is that you have many different levels. I usually get easily bored when in video games you have the same setting and only one thing to do. But in Rayman, you have different worlds and many goals. From collecting lums and teensies, defeating bosses, to time levels. In Rayman Legends, there are also live challenges where you can join with people around the world, so you'll never stop getting bored of this game. There might be a few people who would be annoyed with the princess levels because they're like damsels in distress. But in this game, I actually love it. There's also this thing in Rayman Legends where you can go back to Origins to play the older levels. But even if it's in there, the original Origins is better because it's harder. You can also get quite bored when the game has only one player mode. But in Rayman Origins and Legends, you can have up to 4 players. It simply makes it much more fun when you play with your friends and family. The best part is that you can make others suffer by beating them up. Also, what I find very handy is that the controls are so simple. In other games, it usually takes me a while to learn the mechanics of them, but in Rayman, it's the best. You just jump, hit, glide, walk, and sprint. Next up is the world building. I think that it's very interesting how the world is controlled by Apocalypse, or the Bubble Dreamer, through his dreams. And the way through his nightmares, danger arrives to the world, so Rayman has to go and defeat them. It's very creative. And lastly, the music. The soundtrack of these games is amazing. The melody of them are so nice and suit the game so well. You can just hear the effort that was put into it. I love it so much that I sometimes just listen to the music in my free time. Now that I got into the positives, I'll now talk about a few things that I'm more on the negative side with. The first thing has to be the nymphs and princesses' clothing choices. I am personally not a huge fan when seeing this revealing clothing on female characters, especially on the nymphs. But I also hate over-modest clothing, so I like things to be in the middle. Not too revealing, but not too modest. But I think the positives of this are that the nymphs have a very short amount of screen time, and with the princesses, you can't see it as much. But I'm still curious about why the mountain nymph is wearing this when the weather's like this. Maybe they just have some supernatural powers? I don't know. Then there's the nymphs themselves. The nymphs, according to Google, are any of the minor divinities of nature in classical mythology represented as beautiful maidens dwelling in the mountains, forests, trees, and waters. They appear to be like fairies, and I'm uncomfortable with magical beings because my beliefs are against these mythological creatures. I do understand also that fantasy worlds work differently than reality. For example, I think it's okay that they created Rayman because they didn't make him come out of thin air, but instead they needed a certain amount of lums to create him. The next one is also based on my beliefs, and it's certain worlds that exist in them. The two that bother me the most are the Land of the Living Dead and Fiesta del Muerto Morto. The land of the living dead is filled with these dead grannies, and Fiesta Luerto Morto has some ties to the dead also. Because of their origins, I feel uncertain if playing these levels are fine, but then again, the whole point of the game is to defeat them anyway. And the last of the negatives is themes of yoga or worship. Not sure about Legends, but definitely the Origins mentions these things. In the gibberish tree, you see Bokolos doing some yoga, and to enter this thundery robotic world, the nymphs were doing yoga and summoning a magic or something like that. There's also this scene in the mountain world where you need to bow down to this eye thingy to enter this cave. This is the worst of them all in my opinion, because like I said, I don't like themes of magic, and I think these things are bad, but I'm glad these things get minor screen time. Now that I have gone through my personal thoughts, the question arises, would I ever play these games again? And the answer is, I'm uncertain. As much as I love this game, there are a few things that I'll need to think about, especially Rayman Origins. If the magic wouldn't be there, I'd get them as soon as I could. And the only problem with Legends would be the Fiesta world. But when you go there, the world itself never reminded me of the dead. I know my answer sounds strange, but many times in life we are uncertain. Let's now brighten up the remaining minutes with the character I'm drawing right now. Like I said in the beginning, the character is basically me as one of the princesses. My favorite princess as a child was always Emma, the underwater one. So I figured out that since my favorite one was underwater, I turned myself into a water princess. Just a few days before drawing, I was sketching some cartoony fish bones, and then I thought, wouldn't it be cool if a fishbone was a weapon? And that's what I did. I fell in love with this idea very quickly. All of the princesses have the same body, but different clothing choices. So I used the classic Barbara as a reference because she has wavy hair and her pose looks the easiest to draw. Others would probably stick to their own art style, but I specifically wanted myself to look as close to a princess as possible, so I tried my hardest. And Rayman Legends has the lineless art look, and I don't really do lineless art, but I watched a few tips on how to do it. For the whole outfit, I went with blue scales and gave myself a little fishnet with a starfish as a belt. I made my feet partially barefoot, cause in these places there's usually sand. For my helmet, I made it into a fishbone also to match the weapon. At the start, I was planning to give the helmet just 2 eyes, but then my brother came up with the idea of turning it into a fish head with an open mouth, so I tested it out and I quickly fell in love with it. For the helmet wings, I went with the more batty look, because the shape itself looks much more bony. The skin I made peach, cause I'm peach, not green. Crazy, right? Barbara has this stitch across her face, so I decided to give myself one underneath my lips because I have a stitch scarred there. I gave myself some brown hair because I have brown hair and I made it nice and wavy. So here's the final result of me as a Rayman Princess. Not gonna lie, but I feel so proud of this drawing. Obviously, it's not as detailed as the actual princesses themselves, but I tried my best to make it as accurate as possible. Do you have any personal thoughts on this game as well? Please tell me. And also, do you like the final result of my drawing? Tell me also. I just wanted to thank Mr. Secreto Dos for giving this idea. I had so much fun making this video. By the way, I don't know Spanish. I just Google translated it. I know it's not the best, but it gets the basics. That's all from me and I'll see you next time.